Imagine stepping onto your own land, the place you built with your bare hands, only to be screamed at, called a thief, and chased off like you don't belong. Now picture the person yelling doesn't even know you're the one who owns their home. This is the story of a man who faced that fire, stayed steady, and sparked a change that shook a small town to its core. Stick around. You won't believe how this unfolds. It was November 3rd, 2024, in Ashwood, Vermont, a town tucked into the Green Mountains where the air carried the crisp scent of pine and the promise of snow. The leaves had turned molten red and gold, carpeting the ground like a painter's fever dream. On a quiet street lined with maple trees, a storm was brewing, one that would leave scars and, eventually, healing. Malik Thompson, 41, pulled into the driveway of his rental property in a weathered Chevy Silverado, its bed piled with lumber and a dented toolbox that had seen better days. He was a man of broad shoulders and steady hands, his skin the deep brown of polished oak, his eyes carrying the weight of a life built from grit. Malik had just come from a city council meeting, still in a navy blazer, no tie, his flannel shirt peeking out at the collar. He was there to pitch a community center he'd been dreaming of, a place for kids to learn trades like the ones that had saved him. But today, his focus was simpler. A leaking faucet in the rental, a 2-story Victorian with sage green siding, and a wraparound porch that whispered of older, gentler times. This house was his crown jewel, the fourth in a portfolio he'd clawed from nothing, each nail a defiance of the odds stacked against him. Malik was a carpenter by trade, a man who'd turned his first fixer-upper into a home at 26, back when he was still proving himself to a world that often looked past him. Now, at 41, he owned 4 properties outright, debt-free, each one a brick in the legacy he was building for his son Jaden, a lanky 12-year-old with his father's quiet intensity and a knack for sketching cityscapes. The Ashwood house was special. Malik had restored it board by board, sanding the oak floors until they gleamed, carving new balusters for the staircase when the originals crumbled. Every detail was a piece of him, a testament to a man who'd learned early that respect wasn't given, it was earned. But as he stepped out of his truck, toolbox in hand, the world tilted. Across the street, Claire Donovan, 34, was unloading a rented U-Haul, her auburn hair pulled into a messy bun, her face flushed from the 6-hour drive from Boston. Claire was a copywriter, freshly untethered from a corporate job that had drained her soul. She'd found the Ashwood listing online, a steal for a house this charming, perfect for her pivot to freelancing and her dream of writing a novel. The photos had sold her: high ceilings, a bay window spilling light, a backyard where her rescue mutt Baxter could chase rabbits. She'd signed the lease sight unseen, desperate for a fresh start after a divorce that had left her raw. Today was move-in day, and she was early, buzzing with nerves and possibility, already picturing her laptop on the kitchen table, fairy lights draped over the porch. When Claire glanced up and saw Malik, 6 feet 3 inches, black, standing on the porch with a wrench, her heart lurched, her breath caught, her hands froze on a cardboard box labeled books. To her, he didn't look like a landlord. He looked like trouble. Her pulse spiked, a primal alarm ringing in her chest. Malik, focused on the faucet, didn't notice the shift, but the air thickened when Claire's voice sliced through the autumn quiet. "Hey, what the hell are you doing on my property?" Malik paused, wrench mid-turn and turned slowly, his brow furrowing. "Just fixing a faucet, ma'am. You're what?" Claire's voice was a whip, sharp and loud, startling a squirrel from a nearby oak. "This is private property. Get out, or I'm calling the police." Her phone was already in her hand, her thumb hovering over the screen, her eyes wild with conviction. Malik's stomach twisted, that old familiar weight settling in, the one that came with being seen as a threat before you could even speak. He set the wrench down, deliberate, hands visible. "Hold on, there's a misunderstanding. I'm Malik Thompson, the landlord. This is my house." Claire's laugh was a jagged thing cut in the air. "You're the landlord? Nice try. I'm not an idiot. I'm meeting the real owner, and it's not you. Leave, or I'll have you arrested." Her face was a mask of fury, cheeks flushed, certain she was staring down a criminal. The words landed like blows, each one heavier than the last. Malik had been here before, followed in a hardware store, pulled over for looking suspicious, stared at like he didn't belong in his own life. But this, his own porch, his own house, it was a knife to the gut. He took a slow breath, his jaw tight, his easy smile long gone. "Ma'am, I'm telling you, my name's on the lease. Check it. I own this place." Claire stepped forward, phone raised like a weapon. "You own this?" "Bullshit. I know what a landlord looks like, and it's not you. Get moving, or I'll make sure you regret it." Her voice carried across the street, loud enough to draw a neighbor's face to a window. Malik's pulse pounded, not with fear, but with a fury that burned low and steady, the kind that comes when you're forced to swallow disrespect on your own soil. He could have grabbed the deed from his truck, shown her the emails, pointed to the Thompson Properties logo faded on his toolbox, but her eyes, blazing, unyielding, told him she wasn't listening. Not now, not yet. "All right," he said, voice low, picking up his toolbox. "I'm leaving, but you'll see my name. Believe that." He walked to his truck, each step a coal in his chest, Claire's glare searing his back. She stood planted, arms crossed, triumphant as his engine growled and tires crunched over gravel. Claire didn't waver, didn't doubt. She hauled her boxes inside, Baxter bounding at her heels, oblivious to the wreckage she'd left. The house smelled of lemon polish and old wood, and Claire felt like she'd won a battle. She'd imagined the landlord, listed as M. Thompson, as some gray and white guy, maybe a real estate broker with a paunch and a polo shirt. Not him. She shook it off, unpacking with purpose. A kettle, a stack of novels, Baxter's squeaky toy, already rearranging the living room in her mind. The lease sat on the counter, unopened, her signature dashed off in a hurry. Why check it? She'd handled the threat. Malik, meanwhile, was speeding toward a diner on the edge of town, knuckles white on the wheel. He called his property manager Lena, a 55-year-old dynamo who'd been with him since his first flip. "Lena, new tenant just lost it. Chased me off the Ashwood place like I was stealing her damn TV. Can you deal with this? I need a minute." Lena's voice crackled through the phone, sharp as a tack. "She did what? You okay, Malik?" He exhaled, hard. "Mad as hell, but fine. Just get there before I say something I'll regret." He hung up, pulled into the diner lot, and ordered a black coffee, the kind that burned going down. The steam curled up, matching the heat in his chest. He wasn't surprised. Life had taught him to expect this kind of thing. But on his own property, the place he'd rebuilt with his own hands, it stung deeper, like salt in a wound. He thought of his mom, a school teacher who'd endured whispers and slights to keep her classroom running, telling him, "Hold your head high, but don't let them break you." Today, that advice felt like a weight he wasn't sure he could carry. Back at the house, Claire was arranging mugs in the kitchen, humming a half-remembered song, when a red SUV rolled into the drive. Lena stepped out, gray curls pinned back, clipboard in hand, her face a study in controlled fire. "Claire Donovan," she called, voice like a gavel. Claire poked her head out, all smiles, expecting a friendly face. "That's me. Thanks for coming. There was this guy here earlier." Lena cut her off, no trace of warmth. "That guy was Malik Thompson, your landlord. Care to explain why you ran him off his own property?" Claire's smile shattered, her breath hitching. "Wait, what? That was him?" Lena's nod was slow, her eyes pinning Claire like a moth to a board. "You signed the lease, didn't you? His name's right there. So what happened?" Claire's mouth opened, closed, words stumbling. I didn't think he didn't look like what?" Lena's voice was ice, her head tilting. "A man who owns 4 houses? A carpenter who rebuilt this place from the ground up?" Claire's face burned, a sickly red creeping up her neck. I thought he was breaking in or something. I didn't know." Lena's laugh was dry, cutting. "Breaking in with a toolbox on his own porch? You didn't ask, did you? Just saw a black man and decided he was trouble?" Claire shrank, gripping the doorframe, her voice small. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean. I messed up." Lena didn't budge. "Yeah, you did. Malik's too decent to tell you how bad you hurt him, but I'm not. He was fixing your damn faucet, and you treated him like a criminal." She slid a business card across the counter. "He'll be back tomorrow. You better figure out how to make this right." Lena turned on her heel, leaving Claire with Baxter's confused whines and a house that suddenly felt too big, too quiet. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. She paced the hardwood floors, Baxter trailing her, his nails clicking softly. The walls seemed to press in, heavy with the echo of her own words, shrill, accusing, wrong. She saw Malik's face, calm but etched with exhaustion, like he'd carried this kind of weight 1,000 times. She'd been so certain, so loud, and now every syllable she'd spat felt like a stone in her chest. She grabbed the lease, hands trembling, and there it was. Malik Thompson, owner, inked in black. She groaned, collapsing onto the couch, Baxter's warm bulk pressing against her. "I'm such an idiot," she whispered, replaying the scene, her voice, her assumptions, her blindness. Claire had always thought of herself as good. She voted progressive, shared articles about equality, had a black colleague she'd invited to drinks. But today, she'd been someone else, someone who saw a black man with a wrench and thought, danger, without a moment's pause. The shame was a physical thing, choking her. She opened her laptop, typed Malik Thompson, Ashwood, Vermont, expecting nothing. But he was everywhere. A local news piece on his first renovation, a photo of him at a town hall, another of him teaching carpentry to teens at a community workshop. His company, Thompson Properties, had a simple website, 4 rentals, glowing reviews. "Malik fixed my roof in a snowstorm. Best landlord ever." She found a video, shaky but clear, Malik guiding a kid through sawing a plank, his laugh deep and warm. Comments stacked up. "Ashwood's hero. Man's a legend." Claire's throat tightened. She'd chased a legend off his own land. Across town, Malik wasn't drowning in the hurt. He was at his home, a cedar-shingled bungalow he'd rebuilt from a crumbling shell, grilling burgers for Jaden and his sister, Aisha, a 38-year-old nurse with a laugh that could light a room. Jaden, sprawled on the couch with his sketch pad, glanced up. "Dad, you're all quiet. You mad?" Malik forced a smile, flipping a patty. "Just a rough day, kid. How's that skyline coming?" Jaden rambled about his latest drawing, a futuristic city with floating bridges. But Aisha wasn't fooled. She'd stopped by to borrow a ladder, caught the storm in Malik's eyes. "Spill it, big brother. You're brooding." He sighed, told her about Claire, keeping it brief. Aisha's fork hit the table. "She said what? That's some racist nonsense, Malik." He shook his head. "She's new, probably panicked. I'll handle it." Aisha scoffed, her braids swinging. "You're too damn forgiving. She needs to feel this." He didn't argue, just slid the burgers onto buns. But her words lingered. Forgiving or not, he felt the bruise. He thought of his dad, a mechanic, who'd come home with stories of customers refusing to pay, calling him names that cut deeper than any tool. Malik had sworn to build something unbreakable. Homes, a name, a future for Jaden. Today, that promise wobbled. He barely slept, the hum of the furnace mocking his calm. Morning dawned cold, frost glittering on the grass. Malik dropped Jaden at school, his son's backpack bouncing, then headed to the rental. He didn't expect Claire to be there, figured she'd be at a coffee shop, avoiding him, but her U-Haul was still in the drive, curtains twitching. He parked, grabbed his plumbing kit, and started on the faucet. The clank of metal loud in the still air. Claire heard it, her heart pounding. She peeked out, saw him, flannel, jeans, boots dusted with sawdust, and felt like she'd swallowed nails. Baxter barked, tail wagging, and Claire shushed him, clutching the leash like a lifeline. She stepped onto the porch, voice barely above a whisper. "Malik?" He looked up, face guarded, wiping grease off his hands. "Yeah?" She forced the words out, her eyes stinging. "I'm Claire. I was awful yesterday. I didn't know who you were, and I assumed the worst. I'm so sorry." She held his gaze, though it felt like staring into the sun. Malik set his wrench down, his silence heavy. "Appreciate the apology," he said, voice even. "But I'm wondering, what did you think I was doing? Stealing your faucet?" Claire's breath caught, her face crumpling. I thought you were trespassing, or worse. I don't know why I went there." His laugh was sharp, no warmth in it. "Trespassing on my own porch with a toolbox? That's a hell of a leap." Tears spilled down her cheeks, but she didn't look away. "I know, it's horrible. I was wrong, and I'm trying to understand why I did it. I feel like trash." Malik studied her, saw the tremble in her hands, the raw guilt in her eyes. He could have pushed harder. Part of him wanted to, but that wasn't his way. "Look," he said, softer but firm, "I've been dealing with this my whole life. People see me and think problem before I open my mouth. Yesterday wasn't new, but it hit harder 'cause this is my place. I rebuilt it every inch, and you didn't even ask who I was." Claire nodded, wiping her face. "I get that now. Is there anything I can do to make this right?" He exhaled, long and slow. "Live here, pay your rent, but figure out why you jumped to that conclusion. Not for me, for you. That kind of instinct, it'll hurt you again if you don't face it." She swallowed hard. "Thank you for not hating me." He gave a half smile, not kind, but honest. "I don't hate people for messing up. Just don't make it a habit." He turned back to the faucet, wrench clanking, conversation done. Claire retreated, her legs unsteady. She sank onto the couch, Baxter's warmth anchoring her. She'd expected anger, maybe a legal notice, not this. Malik's calm made her feel smaller, but also like she had a chance to climb out of the mess she'd made. She grabbed a journal, started writing. Why did I assume he was dangerous? What's in me that saw a threat? It wasn't answers, but it was a start, a crack in the person she'd been. Malik finished the faucet as clouds rolled in, the air heavy with coming rain. He checked his phone. Texts from Lena, a reminder about Jaden's art show, a tenant's note about a loose shutter. Life pulling him back. He glanced at the house, saw Claire's shadow moving inside, head bowed like she was praying. He didn't pity her, didn't resent her, just hoped she'd listen to herself. He'd seen tenants like her before, city folks, quick to judge, slow to learn. Some changed, some ran. Either way, he'd keep showing up, fixing what broke, because that's who he was. Ashwood's gossip mill spun fast. Lena told a friend at the co-op. By lunch, the story was at the barbershop, the library, the brewery. New woman yelled at Malik Thompson, thought he was robbing his own house. Some chuckled, some fumed. At the diner, Malik overheard a cook murmur it, gave him a look that said, "Stop." The cook did. Malik sipped his coffee, told Lena later, "Let it fade." "She's learning," Lena said, rolling her eyes. "You're too damn patient, Malik." He grinned, but it didn't touch his soul. Claire felt the town shift. A barista's curt nod, a neighbor's clipped "morning." She didn't blame them. She kept unpacking, but the house felt alive, watching her. She called her brother Ryan that night, her voice breaking as she told him everything. "I was that person, Ryan, the one who doesn't think." Ryan was quiet, then said, "Fix it, Claire. Not with apologies, with what you do next." She hung up, spent hours online, diving into articles on implicit bias, videos of black men stopped for suspicious behavior, stories of profiling that mirrored Malik's. It was uncomfortable, like staring at her own reflection and hating what she saw. She kept reading, kept digging. A week later, Malik was back, replacing a porch step that creaked. Claire was home, Baxter's leash in hand. She waved, hesitant, and he nodded. No heat, but no warmth either. "Steps fixed," he said, packing up. She blurted, "I'm trying to understand why I did it. I'm reading, learning." He paused, toolbox half closed. "That's a start. Keep digging." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was enough. Claire walked Baxter, noticed kids playing basketball, a black boy Jaden's age dunking with a grin. She wondered if he was Malik's son, felt a pang for not knowing. She started noticing Ashwood differently, the way some faces tightened when Malik passed, the way others lit up. She overheard a woman at the market praising him. "Malik rebuilt my shed after a storm, charged half what others would." Claire smiled, said nothing, carried the story home. Jaden asked Malik about it one night, poking at his mashed potatoes. "Dad, did someone yell at you 'cause you're black?" Malik froze, fork hovering. "Yeah, kid, sometimes people get it wrong." Jaden's face scrunched. "That's stupid." Malik laughed, the first real one in days. "Real stupid, but we keep going." Aisha, over for dinner, wasn't as gentle. "You should have made her squirm, Malik." He shrugged. "She's squirming plenty." He didn't tell her how he'd driven past the house at dawn, not checking on Claire, but on the house itself, making sure it stood tall despite the insult. By December, Claire was changing, quieter, more observant. She joined a local book club, not to preach, but to listen. Older residents shared Ashwood's history, redlining, slights buried in polite smiles. She spoke once, voice shaky. "I judged someone I shouldn't have. I'm here to do better." They nodded, no coddling, but they didn't push her out. She wrote Malik a letter, her pen trembling. "For the house, for not destroying me, for being stronger than my mistake. I'm still unraveling my biases, but you made me want to try." She left it in the mailbox, her heart racing. Malik found it, read it by the glow of his kitchen lamp. Jaden's snores echoing down the hall. He didn't cry, didn't smile, just nodded, tucked it in a drawer with his dad's old chisels. "Keep unraveling," he muttered, and meant it. Winter settled in, snow blanketing Ashwood. Claire found Malik's mark everywhere, a door he'd hung perfectly, a banister he'd carved. She called once, nervous, about a flickering light. He showed up, fixed it quietly, left with a "stay warm." She started small, bought bread from a black-owned bakery, tipped generously, listened more. At a winter market, she heard a man praise Malik. "Helped me frame my garage, taught my kid how to use a level." Claire smiled, carried the story home. Spring came, soft and green, and Claire's lease neared its end. She'd landed a book deal, could have stayed, but felt drawn to Maine, closer to her brother. Before leaving, she asked Malik to meet. No pressure, just coffee on the porch. They sat, Baxter snoring, steam rising from their mugs. "This place changed me," she said, voice steady. "You changed yourself," Malik said, sipping. "I just didn't slam the door." She laughed, real and raw. "How do you keep going when people see you wrong?" He looked at the street, a kid on a scooter zipping by. "Jaden, Aisha, my mom, they're why I show up. The world's messy, but they're my North Star." Claire nodded, carrying that truth. When she packed her U-Haul, Malik rented the house to a nurse, no drama. Lena teased him. "You're too good, Thompson." He snorted. "Just a guy with a hammer." But he felt whole, the porch fading like a bad dream. Malik took Jaden to an art workshop, laughed when his son splattered paint on his jeans. Life moved on, his rhythm unbroken. Claire, in Maine, started a blog, small, honest, about blind spots, growth, towns like Ashwood. She didn't name Malik, but he was in every word about facing yourself. She hoped he'd know. Ashwood didn't change overnight. Gossip died, news stories rose, but Malik's name held weight. The man who built homes, raised a kid, stood firm. At the diner, folks slapped his shoulder, meant it. He didn't need their approval, never had, just kept his boots on, tools ready, claiming his ground one fix at a time. This story is for anyone who's been misjudged or faced their own mistakes head on. Hit like, share it with someone who needs it. Drop a comment. What's your story? What have you learned? Subscribe for more raw truths that cut deep and lift high. Let's keep this conversation going.